Shalom and welcome to Treasured Inheritance Ministry with myself, Yosef ben Avram. And today you've joined me for a teaching that I've entitled Seasonal Fruit, the Call of a Believer. Now, brothers and sisters, if you've been subscribed to this channel for a while, then you'll know that the core message that we have been proclaiming and what we have been teaching is that we as Yahweh's people need to go from being just a believer into being a true disciple. And as a disciple, we need to ask ourselves, what does the word say is required of us as people who walk according to Yahweh's instructions and guidelines? What kind of people are we meant to be? How are we supposed to bear fruit? And what is our fruit supposed to look like? And why is it important that we bear fruit? These are questions that we need to ask. And these are questions, I believe, that need to have answers. And I pray that by the end of this teaching, that the questions that have maybe been in your mind and in your heart will be answered, and that you will be able to take what you have heard and what you have been presented, and that you'll be able to apply it to your life so that you can be a person who bears much fruit. That's the desire that Yeshua has for you. So brothers and sisters, without further ado, let's pray and then let's get into this teaching. Father Yahweh, we want to thank you and praise you in the wonderful and powerful name of Yeshua, that you have called us by name, that we are yours, that you have chosen us out of darkness and you have brought us into your marvelous light. I know, Father, that you have a word in season for many people that will be listening to this channel and to this teaching. And I pray, Father, that the word of Yahweh will resonate in their heart. Father, your word says that the word of Yahweh is like a double-edged sword, able to cut through bone and marrow. And I pray, Father, in the name of Yeshua, that this word, Father, will truly speak to people's hearts, that it won't just go into their mind, but that it will go to their hearts. And Yahweh, that they will be renewed, refreshed, and challenged, Father, to bear seasonal fruit and to be a true disciple. We thank you for this time, Father, and we pray your blessing upon it. In the wonderful name of Yeshua Mashiach we pray. Amen. Now, brothers and sisters, I would like to read you a passage of scripture, and it's found in John chapter 15 and verse 16, and it says the following. Yeshua is speaking, and he says, "You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you would go and bear fruit, and that your fruit would remain, so that whatever you ask of the Father in my name, he will give to you." Brothers and sisters, Yeshua is speaking to his disciples, and he's saying to them, you didn't choose me, but I chose you. I came and called to every single one of you. And the desire of my heart is that you would bear fruit, but not only that you would bear fruit a little or for a few months or a few seasons of your life, but that your fruit would remain, that it would constantly be there, and that you would be able then, by the power of the Ruach, and because you have remained in the source, in the root, who gives us the power and the ability to produce that fruit, that you would then be able to say, hey, you know what, Yahweh, let me ask, and ask according to your will. So it says, so that whatever you ask of the Father in the name of Yeshua, he may give to you. Isn't that just awesome? You see, brothers and sisters, not only does Yeshua want you to have fruit that remains, but he also wants us to have fruit that enables us to be an effective witness. He wants you to have fruit that enables you to be a better testimony for him in this dying generation. Now, in this context, the word remain is also translated better as abide. In other words, he wants fruit that remains, fruit that abides, fruit that stays. And you know, I'm reminded of what it says in 1 John chapter 2 and verse 6. And it says the following, and it says, the one who says he remains, in other words, the one who says that he abides in him, should also walk as he walked. You see, brothers and sisters, if we say that we are in Messiah Yeshua, then we need to walk as he walked. Not only do we need to walk as he walked, but we also need to be a true representation of Messiah Yeshua in this generation. We cannot say that Yeshua did X, Y, and Z, and we do A, B, and C. We need to be in step with what he says, and when we do that, and we remain in him, by the power of his Spirit, we will bear much fruit, and that fruit will cause us to be able to walk as he walked, to be a true testimony of Messiah Yeshua. Now, before I get into the nitty-gritty of this teaching, I need to state this, and I want to say that this is not a totally new teaching, but I believe that the Father has laid this teaching on my heart as a reminder of the message that He's been saying to His children over the past few months, as well as from the beginning of this year. And I feel that as we draw in close to the end of the Gregorian calendar, I know it is not the biblical end of the year, but it is the time where the world is celebrating, the end of 2019. And as we move into 2020, the question I want to ask of you today is, what have you been bearing for the King? What have you been revealing for the King in your life? So, like I said, as the secular year comes to an end, I feel the need to ask myself, and hopefully you too that's listening to this teaching, what have I produced for my King the past year? What have I produced for my King the past few months? What have I been producing for my King with the ministry? What have I been producing for my King in the lives of others? And how have I been taking what He has given me and using it in His kingdom? The question I asked myself, and I want to ask you too, is what have I been producing? Have I produced ripe fruit or dry fruit? Has what has been deposited in my life remained, or did it wither away and died? Have I had fruit that has remained in and out of season? Or has there been seasons in my life where I've allowed the fruit to become barren? Has there been seasons in my life where I have not stayed in the source, but I have gone in my own efforts, and because of it, my fruit has become barren? Have I been a good servant with the things that Yahweh has given to me to aid in this mission of making more disciples? Brothers and sisters, the mission that you and I have been called to is not just to get people saved, but to make disciples. Disciples that know the difference between the holy and the profane. Disciples that know the difference between what Yahweh considers to be right and what Yahweh considers to be wrong. Not just people that come to congregational meetings on a Sunday or on a Sabbath meeting. No, Yahweh wants disciples. He wants people who can carry His presence. He wants people who have the true fruit that is worthy of your calling. Now, I've spoken extensively about the need to move from just being a believer into becoming a true disciple, one who reflects the character of Yeshua. That's what it means to be a true disciple. It doesn't mean that you become the same product as your Torah teacher or the same product as your pastor. No, we're supposed to reflect the character of Yeshua. In the same manner, He reflected the very character of His own Father. And we can only effectively do this, as He says, if we remain in Him, because He is the true root. And if we remain in Him, then He will remain in us. You see, when we do this, you and I become one with Him, and we are bound by nothing else but our faith and obedience to Him. He is the root. Yeshua is the root. And when we listen and we do and we obey, we are bound to Him and nothing else. Isn't that just an amazing picture? An amazing picture of how He holds us and how we remain in Him. You see, brothers and sisters, today in this very generation that you and I are alive in, this generation of anything goes, this generation of I have my own truth, this generation of people and young people that don't know the difference between right and wrong. It's in this generation, brothers and sisters, that many, many people struggle to produce any lasting fruit because they do not understand the importance of being saved and the necessity that once they are saved, they are to live a set-apart, holy life. You see, brothers and sisters, the true way that we keep ourselves pure and undefiled is by living and walking out the Torah in our lives. The very instructions that Yahweh has given unto us is our guidelines to keep us on the straight and narrow path, to keep us on that road that leads us to life, and the life that is given only by Him. That is why it's called that we walk by faith and not by sight. We don't walk by what we see in this world. We don't walk by emotions. We don't walk by the way that we feel. We walk according to His word and we stay true to His word. We have to have a living relationship, not a religious walk. We have to have a living relationship with Messiah Yeshua, so that when we listen to his voice and when we listen to what he tells us and we keep his instructions, then Isaiah will become real to us. Isaiah chapter 30 verse 21, it says, whether you step to the left or to the right, you will always hear his voice. You will be able to discern the signs and the seasons. You will be able to know what he is requiring from you because you have a living relationship. You see, brothers and sisters, when you only have an outward display of doing the Torah, in other words, if you only do what is required of you, but you never truly go deeper and have an inward change in your life, this is pointless. And it becomes a dead religion without the power of a changed life. This is not what Yahweh wants from us. You see, his desire is for us to grow up and mature and to become tamim, perfect children. Tamim is that Hebrew word which means spiritually mature. He wants you to be perfect. He wants you to be spiritually mature in all that you do, so that you are no longer just a child, but a true son and daughter. One that he can look at and say, well done, my good and faithful servant. One that understands the truth of his word and the truth of the signs and the times and the seasons that they find themselves in. You know, today so many people have placed so much focus on the outward observance of the commandments. You have to keep the commandments of Yahweh, but if you're keeping the commandments of Yahweh without an inward change, it's only going to become religion, and then you are not going to be able to produce a living harvest or a harvest that will be sustainable. You will not have the fruit of a changed life. Pardon me. You see, Yeshua, he's looking for a heart that has a harvest for him. He's looking for someone that has really changed from the inside out. He's looking for someone that has got a heart like his. He's looking for someone like David who had a heart change. Brothers and sisters, he wants to come and reap your heart. He wants to see what is inside it. He wants to take the fruit of your heart and place it in his basket so that it can be used as a witness and a testimony to the nations in the final days. Just like he looked at Job and said, this is my faithful servant. So he wants to look at you and say, this is my faithful servant. This is someone that I can rely on. This is someone that produces the fruit that is worthy of the calling that they were called to. Brothers and sisters, the bride of Yeshua. Everybody talks about the bride. But the truth of the matter is that the bride of Yeshua is a bride of power and spiritual might. The bride is a bride of power and spiritual might. Not a robot, not a bride who just does what is told or what is said to them. No, the bride of Messiah is a bride of power and spiritual might, who knows the difference between what is right and wrong and chooses not to do it. You see, the bride is like what Psalm 1 says. It says the following: blessed is the man, or let's say the man or woman, who shall not walk in the counsel of the wrong. Brothers and sisters, you cannot afford to walk in the counsel of the wrong, and shall not stand in the path of sinners, and shall not sit in the seat of scoffers. How often do we do that every single day that we go to work? We choose to sit around people that are actually scoffing because we feel like if we say something, we're going to rock the boat. We have to stand up for truth. Verse 2 continues and says, but their delight is in the Torah of Yahweh, and they meditate in his Torah day and night. You see, we've got to meditate upon the word, the instructions of Yahweh. We have to meditate upon what Yahweh has given us. When we do that, brothers and sisters, and we apply that word to our lives, to our life that is being changed, renewed, to a life that is seeking the Father, to a life that is growing, to a life that has the Spirit of Yahweh within them that is being changed and renewed. When we do that, brothers and sisters, then verse 3 becomes real. For he or she shall be a tree planted by the rivers of water that yields its fruit in season. Don't you want to be a tree that is overflowing with a fountain of Yeshua in your life? Don't you want to be a tree that has the fruit of Yahweh evident in your life? And it goes on to say, and whose leaf does not wither, and whatever they do prospers. You know, brothers and sisters, the Bible tells us that whatever David did, he prospered. You know, David made a lot of mistakes, but David's heart was changed. And because his heart was changed, he was able to do great and mighty things for Yahweh. And he was prosperous. You see, brothers and sisters, the wrong are not like the righteous. They are like the chaff which the wind blows away. Therefore the wrong shall not rise in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. The sinners cannot stand in the presence of Yahweh. And he goes on to say in verse 6, for Yahweh knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wrong comes to nothing. You know, brothers and sisters, don't be fooled in thinking that the separation has not yet begun. The separation between the righteous and the evil has begun. The righteous and the unrighteous, there is become a division between the righteous and the unrighteous, even within the very body of Messiah Yeshua. You know, Yeshua said that in the last days there will be a separation of wheat, those who have produced, from tares. And if you think about wheat is producing. It is producing something, whereas a tare produces nothing. So it speaks to us about those that have produced a harvest compared to those that have just stagnated and produced absolutely nothing. You see, this has to happen because not all believers in the final days will be the bride. The Bible tells us, brothers and sisters, that it is your duty, my duty, every single one of us that says that we are believers in Messiah Yeshua, it is our duty to examine our hearts, to evaluate your own vineyard, to check and see what weeds have grown up. What have I done to tend to my vineyard? What weeds have you allowed to enter in? And you know, I've spoken so many times in different places, and every time I seem to use the same analogy because it's so true. So often we realize that we have weeds that are growing in our lives and weeds that are growing in our hearts, and we just seem to take the spiritual lawnmower and we just go out and we mow everything down thinking that it's going to be okay so that people can't see the problems that we're going through. But the truth of the matter is, brothers and sisters, if you keep mowing with a lawnmower over those weeds, eventually when rain seasons come, when the floods come, brothers and sisters, and hard times press in, and they will come, those weeds will just grow thicker and they will grow more bushy and they'll come straight back. You see, a weed needs to be rooted out. You can't just run your spiritual lawnmower over it and think that it's going to go away. You have to uproot it. What jackals have you forgotten to kill? How often do you allow the vine dresser to prune and to check to see if you're firmly rooted in the soil of life? How often do you allow the vine dresser to prune you? How often do you say, here I am, examine me, O Yahweh, check my heart, see what is inside of it. And when you are told, do you actually take care of it? Or are you self-righteous and say, no, there can't be. That wasn't Yahweh talking to me. And then Yahweh sends you someone else in the form of a messenger to tell you again. And then you cast that person off. You know, brothers and sisters, many of you listening to this, you have no more water to drink from in your lives. You know, the Bible says in Psalm 1 that the righteous will be like a tree planted beside streams of living water. They will have a constant supply of water. But for some of you, you have no more water to drink from. The well that you used to run to has become dry because of your own actions and your own unrepentance. And the Bible says in Psalm 1 that the wrong are not like the righteous. And the righteous, as I said, they have a river of water to drink from. Instead, the unrighteous are like chaff that the wind blows away. Many of today, brothers and sisters, are blown from one place to another because they have not allowed the gardener to come in and prune them when the season for pruning was upon them. And you know, Ephesians chapter 5 tells us that Yahweh has given unto us the fivefold ministry for the edification of the saints, so that we are no longer tossed around by every wind of doctrine. That's how so many people are, brothers and sisters. They are tossed around from one place to another because they are not actually rooted in Messiah Yeshua. And they are not rooted in Him because they have not allowed the vine dresser to come and check and to get rid of all the things they need to be taken care of. You see, brothers and sisters, our gardener, Yahweh works in seasons just like any professional gardener does. But it is our duty to be in the season that Yeshua wants us to be in. And not move in our own timing as so many of us do. And I'm even guilty of that. So many times we say to ourselves, well, this place is boring. And this place is, I'm not moving. So we begin to self-fulfill the things that Yahweh has told us. And it becomes dangerous. You see, brothers and sisters, the hearing of the word in us, it has to produce faith. And that faith in turn produces action. You see, when we hear the word of Yahweh, we are built up in our inner man. That's where we need to be built up. And this building up should lead us to live a life of dedication, of holiness, a life that is dedicated to Yeshua and his kingdom principles. And we should be doing what his kingdom principles say. You know, the word of Yahweh is like a seed that is planted in our hearts. And Yeshua had much to say about the seed and how or where it gets planted. Let's take a look at what it says in the book of Luke chapter 8 and verse 5 onwards. And it says this: the sower went out to sow his seed. And as he sowed, some indeed fell by the wayside. And it was trodden down, and birds of heaven devoured it. And others fell on rock. And when it grew up, it withered because it had no moisture. There was no water. And that is how so many people are today, brothers and sisters. There is no water of life inside of them. And because there is no water of life, the word of Yahweh cannot take root. It goes on in verse 7 and says, and others fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up. And those thorns grew up with it and choked it. You see, because they didn't tend to the soil, they didn't get rid of those thorns. And others fell on good soil and grew up and yielded a crop 100-fold. Praise Yahweh, because that's what he desires from you, and that is what he desires from me. Not a 30-fold, not a 60-fold. He desires 100-fold harvest from you. Having said this, he cried, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. Brothers and sisters, I pray as you listen to this teaching that your ears will be open. And he's taught ones who ask him, saying, what does this parable mean? And he said, to you it has been given to know the secrets of the reign of Elohim, but to the rest in parables, that seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not understand. And this is the parable. Now he explains it, and he says this: the seed is the word of Elohim. And those by the wayside are the ones who hear. Then the devil comes and takes away the word from their hearts, lest having believed they should be saved. You see, brothers and sisters, so many people today, we preach the word of Yahweh to them, but the enemy comes and he deceives. Oh, how I pray that you will not be deceived. That when you get saved, that you will know that you are saved. In verse 13 it continues and it says, and those on the rock are those who when they hear receive the word with joy. So many people today, they receive the word with joy. But as soon as trial comes, as soon as testing comes, and it will come, brothers and sisters. Yeshua himself was tested, and he went into the wilderness and he was tested. But he quoted the word. He said it was written, and he overcame the enemy. You see, brothers and sisters, trial comes and people fall away. Verse 14 continues and says, and that which fell among thorns are those who when they heard go out and are choked with worries and riches. The love of money chokes them. And the pleasures of life. I want to go back to smoking, to drinking. And because of these things, brothers and sisters, because these people go back to the old way of life, it tells us in verse 14 at the end that they are not able to bring about fruit that leads them to perfection. There is no fruit in their lives that leads them to a life of maturity. In verse 15 it says, and that on the good soil are those having heard the word with a noble and good heart. In other words, with a right heart, a heart that has been changed, a heart that is willing. And because their heart has been softened, they are able to retain it. And the word takes root. And they are able to bear fruit. And take note of what it says. This fruit is born under endurance. In other words, it is born under trial. It is born under extreme circumstances. When you go through hardships in your life, the Bible tells us that those hardships produce character, which in turn produces endurance. But so many of us stop short. You know, the interesting thing about verse 6 is that Yeshua says some fell on the rock. And you know, many believers' hearts are just like this. They hear the word, but their hearts are like a rock in desperate need of being softened and changed. They are in desperate need of crying out and saying, Yahweh, my heart needs to be changed. And you know, Yeshua goes on to say that the seed that fell on the rock also struggled because it had no moisture. And I said that in the passage. And once again, it gives us emphasis, brothers and sisters, to Psalm 1 and the necessity of not only hearing the word of Yahweh, but actually living it and drinking of his life-giving water. That can only happen if we are in an intimate relationship with him. You see, we need to drink of the fountain of Yeshua. He said, anyone who is thirsty, come unto me, and I will fill you. We need to examine our lives and make sure that just like the book of Jeremiah, that we are not dry and cracked cisterns. If we are dry and cracked, how will we be able to hold the water that Yeshua wants to give us? You see, if we are cracked and dry, you won't be able to hold that life-giving water. It's the water in you that gives us the power to produce life-giving fruit. You see, brothers and sisters, over and over again, you and I are faced with a burning question. And this question applies to me and it applies to you. The bridegroom is going to stand one day and he's going to ask of us, what have you done for me while I was away? You see, Yeshua has always been looking for people who have been refined, people who have been changed, people who are producing the fruit of the kingdom, a people that are doing the Great Commission, not only speaking about it, but actually doing it. A people who are like his disciples of old, who are going out and making disciples no matter the cost. A people who live the Torah, not only speak about it. A people who are refined, as it says in the word, like gold and silver, and look and act and speak like Yeshua. But on the flip side of all of this is, what happens if we don't change? What happens if we don't change our thoughts, if we don't change our lives, if we don't commit to what Yahweh wants from us? In Matthew chapter 21, verse 42, it says the following. Yeshua said to them, did you never read in the scriptures, the stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. This was from Yahweh, and it's marvelous in our eyes. Because of this I say to you, the reign of Elohim shall be taken from you and given to a nation bearing fruits worthy of it. And he who falls on this stone shall be broken, but on whomever it falls shall be pulverized. And the chief priests and Pharisees, having heard his parables, knew what he was speaking and knew that he was speaking of them. And seeking to lay hands on him, they feared the crowds, seeing they held him to be a prophet. Brothers and sisters, let us not be fooled in thinking Yeshua was only referring to Israel and the Jews in this passage. It was referring to Israel and the Jews, but I believe that it's also a message to you and I today. You see, if we call ourselves children of Yahweh, but we are not producing fruit, his fruit, in a manner that he desires of us, or if we confess him with our mouths, but we have fruits of darkness within us, then we are in great, great danger. You see, just because you keep the Torah, or you have a Shabbat gathering on a Friday night, or you go to church on a Sunday morning, or you go to home cell midweek, that does not mean that you are a legitimate child of the King. You see, a true child of the King does all his Father asks of him. In ancient times, you would find it extremely difficult to differentiate between who was a servant and who was a child of the owner of the property. And the reason for this was they both worked the land just as hard. The only time that you would know who was at dinner time. You would be able to know the difference between who were the children of the farmer and who were the servants, because the children of the farmer were sitting at his table. You see, brothers and sisters, the secret to you and I producing the fruit is found in verse 44 of Matthew chapter 21. And it says this, and he who falls on this stone shall be broken, but whomever it falls on, he shall be pulverized. You see, brothers and sisters, it's our duty, your duty and my duty, to allow the Spirit of Yahweh to break our hearts of stone as we fall upon Yeshua, as we fall upon our King, as we trust Him with all our heart, all our mind, and all our soul. He will break our heart of stone and He will give us a heart of flesh. You see, we need to let go and let God. When we fall on Yeshua with no reserve, that's when we'll be broken by Him so that we can become open for Him. I believe that brokenness leads to openness and a transformation of the old man into the new man by the Ruach, by the Holy Spirit. The problem today is that many have come from places where they have been tremendously hurt by teachers, by churches, by pastors, and they haven't been able to have a true healing encounter with Yeshua. Brothers and sisters, you know the Torah has a twofold purpose. It's meant to show us the holiness of Yahweh as well as what is right and wrong, what Yahweh considers to be holy and profane. For many who do not first deal with their own brokenness in their hearts and in their lives, I believe that the Torah can become a hard thing to keep. And the reason for this is that due to people's pain and due to their hurt, they begin to see the Torah as a burden instead of a delight. Brothers and sisters, only once we learn to fall on Yeshua and His promises, that's when the Torah becomes a light to our path and a lamp into our feet. Only then will we be able to walk it out with heart conviction and true healing and wholeness. My prayer for you is that you will not be of those who reject the stone and choose not to change your heart. You see, if we do not change our hearts, that's when the stone will become our judge, as it says in verse 44. That stone will fall upon us until we are pulverized. The choice, brothers and sisters, is yours. We have been called to be disciples, not just believers. The harvest of your heart will be determined by the ultimate gardener of mankind, and He alone will judge what we have produced for Him or what we haven't produced at all. You know, Isaiah chapter 28 and verse 24 says the following. Does the plowman keep plowing all day to sow? Does he keep turning his soil and breaking the clods? When he has leveled its surface, does he not sow the caraway and scatter the cumin, plant the wheat in rows, the barley in the appointed place, and the spelt in its place? For he instructs him for right ruling. His Elohim teaches him. For caraway is not threshed with a threshing sledge, nor is a wagon wheel rolled over cumin. But caraway is beaten out with a stick, and cumin with a rod. Grain is crushed, so one does not go on threshing it forever, nor break it with his wagon wheel, nor crushing it with his horsemen. Even this has come from Yahweh of hosts, who did wonders in counsel, who made wisdom great. You see, brothers and sisters, we are commanded to bear fruit, for in this our Father is well pleased. Unfortunately, many believers are just like this passage in Isaiah. For some, they are continually plowing the spiritual ground of their lives. And truth be told, there is a time, brothers and sisters, when we are to work the soil through learning, through receiving, through submitting and surrendering our hearts to Yeshua. But this should all lead to a final harvest. This should all lead to a produce. You see, truth is that once the ground has been cultivated and has been leveled, it's when the farmer begins to sow all different kinds of seeds. And we are just like this. Some are wheat, others might be cumin. And each of us has the same needs. Our needs are to be taken care of in a different manner maybe, but we all need one thing to grow. And that one thing that we all need is water. We all need the Spirit. The same Spirit that rose Yeshua from the grave is the same Spirit that now lives in you. You see, Yahweh is the only one who knows how to look after each different person on this planet. As we submit to Him and allow His seed to germinate in our lives, His word to take root in our lives, we are to be mindful that the fruit we bear is for the kingdom and for the nations to know that our Elohim reigns. You know, John chapter 15 and verse 1 shows us a great picture between the Father and the Son. It says, I am the true vine. Yeshua speaking, He says, I am the true vine. I am the root. I am the one that you are to remain in. And my Father is the gardener. He has many, 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 many places. He has many, many vines that He looks after. Many, many people that He takes care of. Many people that should be bearing fruit. It's also worth noting that a fruitful vine points towards the gardener. In other words, a vine that has good fruit on it points towards the gardener. It points towards the work that the gardener has put in. And that is the purpose of our lives, brothers and sisters, to bear fruit and point others to who? To the kingdom of the Father. John chapter 3 and verse 30 says this. John chapter 3 and verse 30 says this. It says, "It is right for him to increase, but me to decrease." We are supposed to point people to the Father. Now, in a previous teaching, I mentioned the different stages I believe Yahweh uses in his spiritual gardening process. And I'd like to mention them here again because I believe that it helps us to know where we are at in our walk with him. The first one is that we are to prepare the soil. Today so many people live their saved life much like a fast food restaurant. They want instant results, but they are not willing to sweat at their relationship with Yeshua. They are not willing to put the work in. They are not willing to pray and to grow and to ask the questions that need to be asked. They rely on other people's knowledge and teachings on the internet, on websites, or wherever they can get it. They rely on these things to show them the path of salvation. The truth is that this can have benefits, but in the long run, it will never cause your soil to be ready for the seed that Yeshua has for your life. Brothers and sisters, hear me out. Crops do not just simply happen. Reaping a harvest is the outcome of a lengthy series of events that cannot be bypassed. One part of this process cannot be skipped. Nothing should be overlooked. Unless the ground is cleared and plowed, it will never be ready to receive the seed. Likewise, brothers and sisters, in a spiritual sense, before a person is ready to receive the seed of the word, their soul must be prepared. Many times Yahweh will use trials or events to tear down the old man so that we stand in a place where we see the true condition of our hearts and our lives. And we need to be willing to look at it, not run away from what we see. Many times these events are what move people to a place where they see the need for a Savior. The second part of this process is called sow the seed. You see, without sowing of the seed, we will never be able to reap a harvest. We need to hear the word of Yahweh proclaimed to us. And many times this is not just Torah readings or Torah groups or going to your congregational meetings. We need to be willing to hear the words that can sometimes go against the grain of our natural mind. The ones that if we take heed to them will change our lives forever. We need to be willing to take the words of knowledge and direction from the Spirit of Yahweh that Yahweh is saying to us and apply it to our lives. We need to be willing to allow the word to be sown in our lives and germinate in his time. Many people struggle with this because they receive a word and they do not receive or see the results immediately, like I said previously. So they go out and they try to self-fulfill prophecy. Brothers and sisters, be sure to wait on Yeshua. Wait on his timing. Then your seed will reap the harvest that it was destined for. It will produce a great harvest. The third stage, brothers and sisters, is to cultivate the soil. This tends to be the one where most people fall short or they run to immediately. Cultivation is the lengthiest part of the agricultural process. You cannot skip the first two and just think that you're going to magically land up here. Cultivation is the lengthiest part of the agricultural process because it involves things like irrigation, fertilization, and weed control. And today, many people simply don't want to take care of the weeds, like I said, in their lives. It's way easier to trim the weeds so that others don't see, but eventually, it's going to grow back thicker, uglier than before. Until you take the time and effort to actually dig in and ask Yahweh to show you why do you have these things in your life? Where is the root? And then ask him to help you to uproot it. You see, it's our responsibility to learn to become intimate with Yeshua through our prayer life, through our worship, and our sacrificial service. When we do this, we in turn allow his water, that life-giving water, to irrigate and fertilize us. But in order for the process to yield a harvest, we need to be willing to uproot the weeds and not just trim them. All of them, in his time, need to be uprooted. The fourth and final stage, brothers and sisters, is reaping the harvest. You see, crops grow through 3 stages: green, ripe, rotten. However, the harvest is only effective at one stage, and we need to learn which one. If we prematurely harvest the fruit before it's ripe, that's when we run the risk of ruining the fruit forever. However, if we wait too long to harvest the fruit, it may be too late. This is why being in tune with the Holy Spirit, with the Ruach of Yahweh, and His divine plan for your life, not someone else's idea for your life, Yahweh's divine plan for your life. It's imperative, brothers and sisters, when we do this, when we stay in step with Him, brothers and sisters, then we will be able to bring forth a harvest that can be used in the kingdom of Yeshua. You see, the question you need to ask yourself is, are you still green and unwilling to be a witness for Yeshua? Are you actually ripe right now and ready to be harvested? Or have you become rotten and fermented? You know, I'm reminded of the book of Ecclesiastes that says there is a time for every season. We need to understand the seasons and the times. As another year, according to the worldly calendar, fades and comes to an end, we need to stop and ask ourselves truly this question: am I working the works of the one who saved me while it is still day? You know, the words of Yeshua are being fulfilled in our very midst. And as we surrender to the hope of becoming a cleaned out vessel, we in essence are allowing Him, the gardener, to prune us and to get us ready so that we can bear the fruit worthy of our calling. Fruit that will be used to heal others. Fruit that will be used as a witness for a dying generation. And the reason, brothers and sisters, why this is so important is because Yahweh wants you and I to be of those who will be on the side of the living. He wants you to be a fruitful tree that bears fruit. He wants you to be on fire for Him and to be empty of the world. Brothers and sisters, we are living in the days of the fulfillment of prophecy, where what was said before to great men like Daniel and John is coming to pass with great veracity. You know, another word that is similar to pruning is purging. And Yeshua does this by His Ruach if we will yield to His work. In 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 21, it says the following: Therefore, if anyone cleanses himself for what is dishonorable, he will be a vessel for honorable use, set apart as holy, useful to the master of the house, ready for every good work. It's time that we cleanse ourselves from everything that is dishonorable. Zechariah chapter 13 and verse 9 says this: And I will put a third into the fire, and refine them as one refines silver, and test them as gold is tested. Testing is a very important tool of Yahweh. They will call upon my name, and I will answer them. I will say, they are my people, and they will say, Yahweh is my God. Malachi chapter 3 verse 1 to 18 says, Behold, I send my messenger, and he will prepare the way before me. And Yahweh whom you seek will suddenly come to his temple, and the messenger of the covenant in whom you delight. Behold, he is coming, says Yahweh of hosts. But who can endure the day of his coming, and who can stand when he appears? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like a fuller's soap. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he will purify the sons of Levi, and refine them like gold and silver. And they will bring offerings in righteousness to Yahweh. Then the offering of Judah and Jerusalem will be pleasing to the Master in the days of old, as in the former years. Then I will draw near to you for judgment. I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, against the adulterers, against those who swear falsely, and against those who oppress the hired, workers in his wages, the widow and the fatherless, against those who thrust aside the sojourner, and do not fear me, says Yahweh of hosts. Man, those people have got a thing coming for them. We need to be praying for people. You know, we need to understand that the purging and the pruning is all there for our benefit, for our maturing process. Yahweh wants you to be tamim. He wants you to be perfect. He wants you to be holy. And the reason why many are not bearing fruit, as I said, worthy of the calling, is because they have rejected the source of life-giving waters. Brothers and sisters, I pray that you will not just be a person that is religious, but that you will be a person that is rooted in Messiah Yeshua, that you'll be a person that does not procrastinate, that you'll be a person who tends to their own lives first, that you'll be of those who lay it all down and move forward. these will be the ones, I believe, who will be ready to be included in the final chapters of the Acts of the Apostles. The question is, will you be included? You know, each and every year until his return, he will purge the saints and he will prune them more and more. In the end, the choice is yours. How close do you want to be to him? Revelation chapter 14 and verse 4 says, "These are the ones who have not defiled themselves with women, for they have kept themselves chaste. These are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These have been purchased, redeemed from among men as first fruits to Yahweh and to the Lamb." Don't you want to be that close? Don't you want to follow him wherever he goes? Don't you want to hear him speaking so clearly to you? And don't you want to have the fruit worthy of the calling that he has called you to? Brothers and sisters, I pray that this teaching has really spoken to your heart. It's like I said, it's not a new teaching. It's not some new idea. It's just a seasonal word in season. It's for us now to take hold of it and to say, Yahweh, what is in my life? Help me to produce the fruit that I need to produce. Let's pray. Father, I want to thank you so much in the name of Yeshua for every single person that has come, that has listened to this teaching. Father, I want to pray that you will pour out your love upon them. I want to pray, Father, that your spirit, your ruach inside of them will well up. And Father, that over the next couple of days and weeks, Father, that you will really reveal unto them, Father, the places in their lives where there needs to be some gardening taking place, that they will ask the ultimate gardener, Yahweh himself, to come and to prune them, Father, from the inside out, to show them the places in their lives where they need to be tended to, the places in their lives, Father, where things need to be trimmed away, the places in their lives, Father, where you want to bring healing and deliverance. Father, I believe that your heart and your desire, Father, is to raise people up in this generation, to help them, Father, to bear fruit, to strengthen them, Father, to be all that they can be in this generation. Father Yahweh, I pray in the name of Yeshua that you will bless your people, that they will have the eyes to see and ears to hear, that they will have, Father, your spirit inside of them burning like a great fire. And Father, that in this time, in this season, Father, that they will be richly blessed. We pray this all in the wonderful and powerful name of Yeshua Mashiach. Amen. Brothers and sisters, I want to thank you for joining us. I also want to thank you for subscribing to this channel. If you haven't yet subscribed, I invite you to please subscribe by clicking the subscribe button. Also make sure that you hit the bell icon and notifications so that when we do post new teachings or comments on the community side of the channel, that you'll be able to get those and just stay in touch. We'd also like to invite you to head over to treasuredinheritanceministry.com, where you can get all of our written and video teachings free of charge, and where you can just come and fellowship with other believers, like-minded believers around the world, and really just be blessed, I believe. So we invite you to do that and really come and be part of the community. Again, thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Shalom.